Have you ever locked eyes with a complete stranger and felt a sudden, heavy sense of recognition? Like they weren't just passing through, but were someone you were always meant to encounter. It's an intense closeness that can form in just a few days, only to be followed by a departure so sudden it leaves you questioning the reality of the connection you just shared. Arjun spent his nights by the window, watching the city move, trying to reconcile these contradictions. He wondered why some people become essential to our lives in an instant, while others remain strangers even after years of proximity. When we can't find a logical reason for these arrivals and exits, we usually label them as luck, or bad timing, or simple coincidence. But Arjun noticed a flaw in the idea of random chance. If every meeting were truly random, they would all feel the same. Instead, we see a pattern where specific people leave permanent marks, while others leave none. This suggests a design, an invisible structure dictating who crosses our path. Under this logic, every person who enters your life is a timed event in a sequence. They arrive at the exact moment your own development requires their specific influence. Viewing our lives through this lens changes our perspective on loss. We stop seeing ourselves as victims of a chaotic world and begin to look for the specific meaning hidden within every relationship. The most intense relationships often function as educational tools. They are designed to challenge us rather than provide permanent companionship. Imagine placing your full trust in someone, only for them to break it. The pain is deep, and it feels like a senseless tragedy at the moment it happens. Yet, that pain produces a tangible result. You develop sharper discernment, you learn to set firmer boundaries, and you stop repeating naive mistakes that left you vulnerable in the past. That person fulfilled their role the moment they triggered that change. Their presence in your life was the necessary pressure required to push you toward a perspective you couldn't have reached on your own. This is the practical side of karma. It isn't a system of rewards or punishments, but a framework that introduces specific people into our lives when a particular lesson is necessary for our growth. Ancient Vedic texts, like this manuscript, describe our current interactions as extensions of past patterns. It suggests that the people we meet today are often the same ones we have unresolved history with from long before. The person who hurt you most might actually be the one who ended a cycle of behavior you were trapped in. The betrayal was the method used to force a necessary evolution. The design uses two distinct types of connections to move us forward, those that challenge us and those that sustain us. A karmic connection usually starts with a magnetic, intense attraction. However, it quickly moves into a period of friction and pain that leaves you feeling drained and confused. This friction serves a purpose. It acts as a wake-up call, designed to shatter stagnant habits and force you to move out of a comfort zone that was no longer serving you. On the other side is the soul connection. This is defined by an immediate sense of peace. There is no need for performance or explanation because the understanding is already there. According to the Bhagavad Gita, the soul is eternal, meaning it carries its bonds across lifetimes. When you meet someone and feel an instant oneness, you are likely recognizing a connection that began long before this current life. These returning souls provide a necessary balance. They offer a stable sanctuary to return to when the difficult karmic lessons become too heavy to bear. We need both forces to complete our journey. Soul connections provide the strength to endure, while karmic connections provide the friction required to change. If these relationships are so significant, we are still left with the question of why they must end so abruptly, often without a final word. Within this framework, every person enters your life with a specific objective. Their presence naturally reaches its end the moment that objective has been fully realized. We often struggle because we search for closure through a final conversation or an apology. In reality, the growth you experienced because of that person is the only closure that matters. The end of a relationship signals that its purpose has been met. It clears the path forward, allowing you to move into the next phase of your development with the new strengths you've gained. Looking back at those who left reveals the way they reshaped your internal priorities and your understanding of yourself. You see the value in the distance they traveled with you. Every person you meet plays a role in a larger story. Their arrival is a specific purpose being set in motion, and their departure is a sign that the role has been successfully played. Releasing someone becomes a quiet recognition that the encounter has fulfilled its role in the larger pattern of your life. Loss is replaced by the understanding that the cosmic design has been carried out. Take a look at these two celestial bodies colliding. Have you ever met someone and felt an immediate, almost gravitational pull toward them? The initial connection feels electric, but over time, that same energy often fractures, devolving into cycles of misunderstanding and a strange, persistent restlessness. This leaves us with a difficult paradox. If a human bond feels so heavy with weight and significance, why does it so often fall apart? We describe these specific, entangled bonds as karmic relationships. The intensity you feel isn't random. It is rooted in an unresolved history that is currently attempting to balance itself. Ancient figures like Arjuna wrestled with this exact tension. They questioned whether every event in our lives is a pre-written script we are simply forced to perform. It is a logical contradiction. If the script is entirely predetermined, our daily choices have no meaning. But if our choices are the only thing that matters, we shouldn't keep experiencing painful events that we never asked for. Observation reveals that life functions as a mixture of both. The general direction of the path may be set, but the specific way you walk that path remains your own. To understand why people eventually leave us, we have to look at the mechanics of the engine, distinguishing between the parts we control and the parts that move on their own. This diagram represents destiny. Two lines meet at a fixed node to balance karmic debt, but individual action, Purushartha, takes over, shattering this point into countless paths. The Gita teaches we aren't slaves to fate. As one path solidifies, it shows our power to choose. Destiny provides the opportunity for the connection, but your specific choices, like practicing honesty or setting firm boundaries, determine if that connection can actually sustain itself. This is why two people can start with the exact same karmic meeting, yet reach entirely different destinations based on the quality of their individual effort. Consider Arav and Mira. Their meeting was sudden, and the bond felt unbreakable. To Arav, it felt like a permanent fixture of his life. Yet, the relationship eventually collapsed under the weight of constant friction. Despite their mutual desire to save it, every attempt to fix the bond only seemed to accelerate the break. Looking back months later, Arav realized the relationship served a specific, temporary purpose. It forced him to confront his own lack of boundaries and his overdependence on others. A karmic tie functions as a catalyst. It creates the specific pressure required to force necessary internal changes that wouldn't happen in a peaceful environment. This raises the question, why do the people who mean the most to us eventually take everything and leave? Look at the reinforcement in this blueprint. People enter our lives to play roles, teaching us how to love, exposing our flaws, or breaking our existing structure so we can reconstruct ourselves with stronger layers. If your effort leads to mastering the lesson, the karmic debt is balanced. Once that work is complete, the magnetic pull that brought you together naturally dissipates. The departure occurs because the reason for the connection has been satisfied. We often view the end of a relationship as a state of being broken. But if you have learned the lesson intended, you have actually reached a state of psychological success. The friction generated by the end of the bond is the tool used to forge emotional strength. It creates the clarity needed to define where you end and others begin. The universe maintains a precise balance. Destiny's role is to place you on the path, but the effort you exert through the friction of your choices is what actually teaches you how to walk it. We have to shift our focus. A life isn't measured by the list of people who stayed, but by an audit of what each person taught you while they were there. Regardless of who enters or exits your life, your primary duty is to remain focused on your own path and your own conduct. Ultimately, the person doesn't stay, but the shift in your self-worth and the new boundaries you've built remain. That is the only part of the encounter